Um, one of the questions I was thinking about and was, what advice would you give to your younger self after all your years of work and experience? And one thing you said was, you said gain experience quicker. Now, and that was interesting to me because I don't know how you can. Let me ask you about this. Do you believe experience is accomplishment based, or do you think experience is time based? Because you can have experience in a field for a long time but not grow. So do you have a lot of experience, and you can accomplish a lot of things in a short time, so maybe you have different experience. What would you say when you say I could get experience faster? What did you mean by that? Because in 6 years you did a lot.
So yeah, so one of the things that it's so cliche to quote one of the CEOs and so on, right? But I've got to say at LinkedIn, I got exposure to great leaders. The CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Winner, who's left a couple of months ago, he's still at LinkedIn, but he's not the CEO anymore. I saw an interview of him saying, actually, how to get experience is by making mistakes. How do you stop making mistakes? By getting experience.
Okay.
So basically, there is no other choice. You only gain experience by actually making mistakes. And how to avoid mistakes is by, through experience. So it's that simple, and it's so true, and they resonated with me. Obviously, it was later. Like, I wish I knew about it, or at least it was so clear. Like, sometimes there are things you feel, and then you actually get it so clear to you. It comes through. So I really feel like what I mean by that is, I wish I making mistakes early on and learning from those mistakes is something that allows people to develop much faster.
Okay, I see.
Obviously, repeating the same mistakes is a given, and getting exposure to making those mistakes, trying new things, and so on, will actually gain you a lot more experience much faster. So that's my answer to your question.
Yeah.
And I think there are things that you will figure out and you will get it right, and that's great. And sometimes you will try to improve, and then you will realize that was a mistake, and you will go back to the things that you did right in the first instance. For example, at LinkedIn, in my first year at LinkedIn in France, I was one of the strategy was I was by myself. And I felt there was a lot of agencies that were specializing in HR, communication, and so on, that companies were relying on for buying social media advertising and buying, then LinkedIn was being categorized as a social media platform.
Yeah.
When it comes to HR, they were going through those agencies. And agencies were used to use job boards, like they used to buy job boards, and LinkedIn was not a job board, and we were much more expensive than job boards. So I spent time educating those agencies, for example, a lot of time, and explaining, doing presentations and so on, thinking that they will relay the information to their clients, and they will position LinkedIn in a much more efficient way, and they had already the relationship, rather than me by myself alone going and seeing all those clients.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work out, because I think the position of LinkedIn was so different for them. They still tried to position LinkedIn as another job board.
Okay.
And basically I ended up reversing my strategy and going after. Obviously, I was also in parallel going after companies and meeting those kind of clients and building those relationships with companies as well. And I ended up kind of like stopping my strategy with partners, and the reputation I built within a year was like, when people took over, because obviously we built the team, we opened the office, people were actually going after, going and meeting partners, and the reputation, I was like, Guillaume was always saying no to us. So, and one of the big learning was actually not being afraid of saying no, because at the beginning I was always saying yes, yes, yes. but I ended up like not wasting time, but it was not really the best use of my time, and really like saying no. And so again, I could have made a mistake. I could have learned faster. I could have not reacted fast enough, and I could have been out of LinkedIn because like LinkedIn is not good. Guillaume is not good enough. So I think you can make mistakes. Learning from that as soon as possible and avoiding them, it's going to be this is the way you build your experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, is to make the mistakes and get that experience, because it's almost two sides of the same coin. Like that quote that you said, I think it's perfect, says it perfectly. When you're talking about the making mistakes, and like in that example that you just mentioned, is it about being brave enough or willing to take a risk, or to like change something very quickly, or is that what it comes down to? Because you said I could have done that earlier, but I was saying yes for a long time. So if you're maybe more willing to take that risk, to say no from the beginning, you might have learned it faster. And is that what you're kind of talking about?
It really depends. I mean, some people will say no right away, and they will get it right away, and some others will keep saying yes. So, I mean, I think it's just some people are, really will depend.
Yeah.
It will depend on the situation. It will depend. I think it's not necessarily taking risks. So, for example, again, one of the value of LinkedIn is taking intelligent risks. And what I love about it is that every year LinkedIn was focusing on one of the core value. So during the year, you were focusing on that. There were themes, there were projects around that to really, embed that value within all the employees. And like I said, when I joined, it was 500 employees. When I left, it was 10,000. So can you imagine the growth every year and the pressure on the recruitment teams?
Yeah.
In terms of training, onboarding, and so on. So obviously, having the right culture and the right values and educating the employees around those to have an alignment across the board was really super, critical.
Yeah.
And so taking intelligent risk was a really good one, because I had the entrepreneurship mindset early on. I always dreamed about it. I had this experience in London, and I always wanted to set up my own business at some point. But it's only when there were those projects at LinkedIn that, for example, taking intelligent risk, they gave some guidelines around what it means
to take that risk.
Yeah. So what does it mean? What criteria do you use? How, when it makes sense to make a bet? Is it too risky? Is it too safe? What is the right criteria?
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because it also educated me. There are, clarity and simplicity sometimes. This is amazing to get that exposure.
Yeah.
Just I wish. And when you talked about earlier on in terms of the entrepreneurs who right from school start their own business, and then some others, they get into the corporate world. Again, it's based on the capability of learning from their own mistakes. Sometimes people will get a lot more exposure to that knowledge and that experience from others, rather than learning by themselves by making their own mistakes.
Yeah.
Some people will need to make their own mistakes to learn. Some others will get a lot more value from getting into those companies with incredibly leadership teams, will actually give you simple, clear messages and knowledge and expertise and experiences that you can get from and learn from at a much faster rate than if you were just by yourself with two other people who actually have no experience whatsoever, fresh graduates, and you learn by making those mistakes. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really important to, everyone has got different experience and has got different goals and different ways of getting there. But I really feel actually, again, it depends, but I really feel having a blend of, some people might start from fresh graduates from school, but they will build mentors. They will build a network of mentors they can rely on and they can learn from.
Yeah.
Some people won't. Some people will go to a corporate world or McKinsey and they will learn in 2 years as much as someone else who could learn in 10 years.
True, yeah.
So and then they will start their own business.
Yeah.
So it really varies.
Yeah, it's very subjective, but I think you like hit the nail on the head about mistakes and experiences. And coming back to that question that we were talking about earlier, I think that path, it just comes down to you as the person. Do you want to learn and make mistakes under someone else's umbrella, where there's a system in place for you that you can learn from and you can grow and then take care of something?
And it's safer as well.
Of course, yeah, no liability on yourself, that's for sure. And or do you want to like be thrown into the fire and like figure it out yourself? You're going to learn both ways, but like you said, I think experience does come down to your ability to not only make mistakes, but make them quickly and learn and grow from them as fast as possible. And that's what gives you the experience for the future. No, I think that's an amazing way to look at it. I never looked at it from that perspective. So thank you. That's very interesting.